We're on.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
We'll maybe give it a couple minutes for folks to join, but as we get started, we just want to welcome everyone today. We're super excited to talk to you guys about Litmos content. While we're getting things started, we'd love to know where you guys are located and what your roles are, so feel free to throw that into the chat. At the same time, as we go through the presentation today, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw that into the Q&A section, and we'll cover those as well. The presentation will be recorded. Again, would love to know where everyone's chiming in from. Can you guys hear me? Ooh, Puerto Rico.
I can hear you.
We can hear you. Phoenix, Arizona.
Montreal. Okay, cool. People from all over. UK, San Francisco.
I've never seen it scroll that fast. There's so many people. This is awesome.
We're excited to have everyone. Netherlands, amazing. Canada again, Birmingham, Mexico City. This is great. We have people tuning in from all over the world. That's awesome.
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. At least that's where I am. So shout out.
I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. Phil.
I'm from Melbourne. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. So a long way away.
Long way away and late night, but we're glad you're here with us. So
thank you, Phil. Dedication.
I love it.
Unmute works. All right. So folks are hearing us. Atlanta, Roll Tide, Birmingham. It must be Birmingham. Or Alabama in general. Belgium, awesome. Sacramento, New York. We have folks from all over. This is amazing. Ventura County. Hey, I'm from Santa Barbara, so I love Ventura County. Yeah, we're super excited for everyone to be here. Again, before we get started, we're really excited to present on Litmos Content Solutions. Should any questions come up, please throw those in the Q&A section. We're definitely going to have a Q&A. Israel, amazing. We're going to have a Q&A portion of the presentation. But with that being said, I think we should get started. And don't forget to throw in the chat what your role is as well, if you don't mind sharing that. So John, would you mind going into the next slide? Great. So just to introduce myself, my name is Paul Ghosh. I've been with Litmos for just about 10 years. I've been focused on the content side of things for almost 6 or 7 years. And I'm essentially the sales support lead for our content solution. And Phil, I'll give it to you to do a brief intro.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Tutty. So I'm from Melbourne, the other side of the world. I head up the content team at Litmos. So my team is a group of about 40 people. We have a group of digital designers, instructional designers, product managers, the people that all sort of bring together the magic that creates the Litmos content. So my background is, I'm getting a message that we are muted, Paul.
I think folks can hear us. Can you guys hear us? Can you just let us know in the chat if you
Okay,
can hear us?
sorry.
No, you're good. Thanks, Phil.
Maybe we're good. Sorry. So look, in terms of my background, I've been working in the sort of content space for a gazillion years. I started my own content creation business about 15 years ago, where we created custom content for clients, did a lot of work just sort of scoping out, designing, deploying content for different clients. I then went on and moved into one of Australia's largest compliance training companies. So we spent a lot of time building compliance content. And in the last few years, I've been part of Litmos, where I head the content product, where we plan out what courses we're going to build and just run the production process that sits behind it. So I love e-learning content. I love what I do. I always say I've got the best job in Litmos, having the team that I've got that create the stuff that people really, really love. So that's me. John?
Yeah, hello. My name is John Manfredi. The picture of me was when I was looking for a job, totally different than now. So it is the same person, I promise. Just a little more comfortable. But what I do I've been with Litmos for probably 6 or 7 years. I'm an artist at heart. And I've worked my way into graphic design, web development. And at Litmos, I kind of have 2 roles right now. I help with the internal learning stuff. I help create, our courses internally. I help brand and style, our own instances. But I also work with the professional services team and help customers with their branding instances, and try to help the customers any way I can from a design standpoint and learning standpoint.
Awesome. Great intros. And again, we're super excited that everyone's joined us today. We see the chat going off, the interactivity there. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw that into the Q&A. Give a brief about Litmos. So Litmos is just an all-in-one solution, right? It's a intuitive platform that delivers e-learning training, but it also comes with it can come preloaded with e-learning content as well, which is what we're going to focus on today. So with that being said, John, I'd appreciate it if you can go on to the next slide. And this is just a quote we thought that would hit home for us, and thought it would be really beneficial to share with you guys. But essentially, the quote is, the content strategy is getting the right content to the right user at the right time through strategic planning of content creation, delivery, and governance. Next slide. So today we're really excited to dive into the Litmos content solutions. And many of our customers support our courses with their own content as well as other third-party content. At a high level, our comprehensive libraries of over 2,400 courses cover various soft skills topics to enable upskilling and reskilling for personal and professional growth, as well as compliance courses to protect your business and help avoid exposure to financial, criminal, and reputational damage. The courses are taught by subject matter experts and created by our content team, which is designed for optimal learner outcomes. But the great thing about Litmos is that it's an all-in-one solution to where your platform can come preloaded day one with professionally created content to really maximize your investment in our solution and to lift that engagement level right away from day one. Next slide, please. So we understand compliance is crucial to the success of any business. Our regional compliance libraries cover many topics across 100+ courses in each library. The training courses will not only help your organization avoid any compliance issues, but should one happen to occur, it would help protect your organization from any compliance or legal audits when combined with Litmos LMS automated settings and reporting. More importantly, the compliance piece can help you establish a healthy and positive workplace and environment and culture. And one thing that I was really excited to talk to you guys about today is the cost elements of what we incur when we build our content. But I think we're just going to cue a poll here regarding how much time people really invest in content creation. So Alex, if you can cue that poll. We'll give it a couple minutes for folks to enter the response. Maybe just a minute or two, but would really appreciate any of your feedback on this question, because we're genuinely curious, right? And we know that content creation can take a lot of time and resources. So we're really interested to hear from you guys on how much time is spent. But as far as the cost elements go, we at Litmos, we work hard to provide a content solution that would cover most, if not all, of your training and learning needs. But really, our content solution offsets and streamlines costs and resources and these are some of the elements in our content production that our content production teams leverage. So one of those elements is compliance and legal subject matter experts. And really what that means is we keep up to date for any potential legislation change and push out new versions of courses should a compliance or legislation change take place for any of our compliance courses. But other things that I really wanted to highlight that we leverage are instructional designers, project managers, script writers, animators, digital designers, and even a filming studio space. Really, the sole focus of our team and leveraging these resources is to create and deliver an interactive learning experience. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Phil, who's going to talk about the production process in more detail.
Great. Thanks, Paul. So as you'd imagine, Litmos has got quite a large sort of content creation factory, and we're very process driven. To be able to achieve the outputs that we need, we really need to focus on a planning sort of approach and a process that really is scalable. Each month we would launch about 50 to 70 courses. And it's a large scale sort of business. We have, as Paul said in the previous slide, we have people that are sort of specialised in particular roles. So we have product managers that are there responsible for what goes in the roadmap, what's going to end up being produced. We have instructional designers that are there working on the learning design, the content preparation, the storyboarding. We have digital designers. Their role is to basically bring together from the storyboard what the content is. And we have a release team that takes the course and actually pushes it out into the learning management system. So apart from the team, we have a whole lot of tools, systems, things that we've really refined over the last 15 years. But despite the scale of what we do, I think there are a lot of lessons for any content development project. So you might look at this slide and what I'm going to talk through in a moment and say, well, how does that relate to me, given I might be doing one or two projects, or I might be just launching a course once every month or a few months. But a lot of the principles that we use in the way that we create content are things that anyone else would use in creating even a one-off course. So the starting point for course planning and creation is discovery, right? That's really where the decision starts to build a course. And in our case, that's owned by a product manager. And it starts with a business case. Like, why would we want to build a course? What are we going to do? In the case of our business case, we'd be looking at what's the customer need, what's the customer problem that we're solving, what's the business case to be able to invest in doing something. In the case of someone working within an organization, it might be testing an idea. Like, do we want to build a course on something? What do our employees say? We might want to start to look at testing it by surveying people and asking that. It might be looking at things like, how does something that you're developing align with your business strategy or your training strategy? What's a gap analysis? What other training courses might you have? So discovery is really the starting point to say, what are we going to do? Why are we going to build it? And what's the business benefit that we're going to get from doing that? The next stage that we go through is sort of learning experience and content development. And this is really owned by the learning team or the instructional design team. This is where you start to say to yourself, what are the learning outcomes that we're looking for? What are the changes or the behavioural changes that we're expecting as a result of completing the program? Oops, just go back to the previous slide.
Sorry about that. My bad.
What's the learning design look like? How are we going to create the learning experience for people? And then we move into storyboarding. So you sort of look high level in terms of the outcome, and then you move into the storyboard based on content that you might be researching. And where we work a lot on pre-built templates, standards, ways of documenting things that we do so that we can get the best learning experience from the outcome that we're looking for. And then the third stage is UX and digital development, and that's what our digital design team own. So that's really around building the digital assets, compiling the course using an authoring tool. And again, we use templates as much as possible. Within our team, we use the content author product that's available to Litmos customers, but we use a very advanced version of that that's got features way beyond what might exist out there. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. And then the final part of the course creation process is release. And so that's the final QA. It's a process, pardon me, that we go through to get the course in the learning management system. So what we go through, it's a very structured approach, but it's an approach that any of you as part of this webinar now are going to use, whether they're building one course at a time or 50 courses at a time. It's a cascading approach that we use, and we use a lot of tools to support the way that we do that. So John, just jump onto the next slide. So this is the part which is really sort of the UX and digital development. Okay, so this is where we've got a storyboard. We've established the need for a course. We've got the storyboard. We've got the content. We're now going to take the storyboard and create the magic by using an authoring tool to be able to create the content. So, you know, it's about initially looking at ideas and concepts to take that content and to put it into an interactive format for a learner. Is looking at the look and the feel, the styles. We'll have different projects and we'll apply different styles and styles templates for the projects, and the styles will often map to what the learning outcomes are or the particular program that we're doing. We might do a visual mock-up or a prototype. So we'll work around that. So we use sort of static mock-ups. We'll build a course template, and we'll have that design locked in at the beginning. And once that's locked in, we then move to creating the assets that we might use. So we might create a visual storyboard. We might do filming. We might incorporate video into something. We use in a lot of our courses synthetic AI actors. And so we might use tools to be able to create virtual videos. We might create animations. We'll put voiceovers into things. We might create podcasts or audios or create music that we want to put in. So they all become, if you like, the sort of the digital assets that are going to become part of the course. And then we move on to building the course package. So again, using something like Content Author, we take the content from the storyboard, we lay the content out in there. We start to look at how we can build interactions and interactivity into it. We take the digital assets that we've created in the previous stage, we add the videos, we look at how we make the content accessible, mobile responsive. At times we might even do things like translations, and that we're building the course at that point in Content Author. And then the final part is testing. And obviously we go through and test for accessibility across different devices and platforms, and making sure that it's actually working in the learning management itself. So it's quite a structured approach to what we do. And again, just to make the point, whereas we're doing things on a large scale, these are all the elements of what you're going to do. If you're building one course or 10 courses, you're going to use parts of what we're doing and what we do in our big production process in the way that you create the course. Okay, that's that bit. You can move on now, John.
Yeah, I think we're going to cue a poll here. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it. And if we're not, we can move forward. But we at Litmos, there's the poll there. We'll give it a minute for folks to.
We're a well-oiled machine, Paul, aren't we?
That we are, but it's all good. We'll give it a minute for folks to answer the poll. Didn't take too long. It's a pretty quick question, but we're just curious to know, how confident you guys are building your own content, which John will actually touch on in a little bit here. But regardless, at Litmos, we try and cover as many topics as possible, as you can see here. And some of the more popular collections include compliance, leadership, sales mastery, customer service, and communication and social skills. But curious to know from you guys, and feel free to throw it in the chat. What are some topics here that you guys might not see that you guys would love to leverage within your learning and training initiatives? Are there any topics here that are missing, or are there any topics that stand out to you out of all the collections? Feel free to throw that in the chat. I have a question. Professional communication. Okay, yeah, communication skills is very popular. Respectful workplaces. Yep. Employee coaching. Yep. Conflict management, career development. Definitely. Understand the P&L, OSHA, finance. These are things that we hear consistently. Project management, very important as well. Insurance 101, that's an interesting one. Coaching, soft skills, emotional intelligence, great. Appreciate appreciate all the responses, guys. This is very valuable for us to understand, right? And again, we want to provide as much value with our library as much as possible, right? And we try and cover as many topics to include it, but
lots of ideas in there, Paul, aren't there?
yeah, lots of ideas that we'll definitely have to review. So with that being said, John, we can move on to our next slide.
So we thought it'd be interesting to share this with you. And it's a slide that's based around a World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report that was produced recently. It's quite interesting in terms of the sort of ideas that you've been putting in the Q&A versus some of the views about what are the top skill gaps for 2023. And what's really interesting when you look at this is things like analytical thinking, creative thinking, AI, big data. They're really the big in-demand skills that they're saying are going to be in demand in 2027. Leadership is really important, but it's sort of interesting that they tie in leadership and social influence on this and lifelong learning. So, it's more than just leadership. It's the way that people will use leadership skills to have social influence and work with other people. Creative thinking is really big. And that's sort of ahead of the efficacy skills like resilience, flexibility, and agility. Motivation, self-awareness. I mean, when we talk about these skills, they're sort of human skills, or people, we call them soft skills. But I think these are the types of things that companies are saying now that they really want to focus on for 2027. And I'll come back to some stuff in a second later when we talk about our roadmap. But I just thought this might be interesting to you to sort of see the view of the world of skills and where that fits into people's planning and thinking around creating content. John, you might jump onto the next one. So again, we thought it might be interesting for you to see what we're thinking. So taking what you've been putting out there as ideas for content creation, taking the sort of skills that were in the World Economic Forum study, where we're going with our roadmap. And so we look overall at sort of our roadmap from the perspective of soft skills roadmap, our compliance roadmap, and our healthcare roadmap. So soft skills for the second half of the year, so from sort of August through to December, we're going to be launching 69 courses, 65 new courses, 4 reversions. The highlights are things like our critical thinking suite, AI suite, and we're also rolling out 54 translations in Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Spanish. So again, sort of going back to that World Economic Forum slide I showed you before, things like critical thinking and AI are really part of our roadmap in terms of what we're planning to roll out for this half of the year. John, if you just jump to the next one. Compliance is sort of the other area that we focus on, and a really, really big part of our roadmap and a really big part of the courses that are consumed, as Paul said earlier on. So we're planning 136 courses, 48 new, 88 reversions, and our courses are spread across all of our sort of products and editions. So the ANZ compliance, we've got 12 courses, UK compliance, 52, US and Canada, 52, our Platinum edition, we're rolling out 20 courses. Here's a poll question for everyone. Does that all add up to 136? I hope it does. Highlights for this half of the year are our Inclusive Behaviours suite of courses, our Social Media suite and the appropriate use of social media and risk management of social media, and Psychosocial Risk Awareness. So they're courses that are being pushed out into our compliance roadmap for the second half of the year. And Paul, if you jump onto the next slide. So our healthcare roadmap, we've got 17 courses coming up, 2 new, 15 updates. The new courses are on preventing infant abduction in August and obstetrical safety issues, which is coming out in October. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a view about what we're doing, what we're pushing out, how we're trying to tie that stuff to customer need, how we're trying to tie that stuff to sort of the skills and the vision of skills in the future. And just sort of get a sense of the volume of stuff that we do in terms of pushing content out to customers. So Paul, I think we're on the next slide. Sorry, John.
It's all good.
Yeah, at Litmos, our top priority is the success of your learning and training initiatives, and your success is our success, which is why we're very excited to announce our strategic partnership with Go1. So if we can go on the next slide. In most cases, Litmos content will cover most of your requirements and needs, but we understand in some cases it might not, as we can see in the chat. But which is why we're very excited about this partnership with Go1, who's a leader in the content market. Really, the strategic partnership allows us to deliver 80,000 plus training courses from top publishers. Next slide, please. But the great thing about it is the multilingual language support, right? So Go1 has access to over 20 plus languages, has curated content from top leading publishers in the market, and it has automated updates. So what that means is if there's an update to a course, it automatically pushes those updates to your instance. But what's even better for Litmos customers is with the upcoming Litmos integration, you'll be able to export courses and curated course lists directly from Go1 right into your content library, just to make it as easy and seamless as possible as an administrator. So with that being said, we're going to learn a little bit more about how to create content, and we'll hand it off to you, John.
So building your own courses. Yes, someone mentioned earlier, I am the model for Lenny, the little yellow guy running around. They couldn't add the beard because you wouldn't see his legs, but they did the best that they could. So Litmos makes it really easy for for us to be able to add content to Litmos. If you have your own, if you already have a SCORM content, you can simply just upload it into the system. If you don't have SCORM, that's perfectly fine. You can upload video files, audio files, Microsoft PowerPoint and Word documents, and a lot of other documents or files to use for your content. To create some content, you can create assessments and surveys, video assessments, DocuSign documents. There's a lot of different types of creation tools that we do have. And one thing that I kind of feel is kind of underrated is our page of information module. It's a lot of people just use it for, a sentence here or a sentence there, but it is fully HTML driven if you want it to be. You can add your own code, you can add images, so you can totally trick out that page as much as you want. I've had a lot of fun with it. Yes, you do need some HTML knowledge to go into it, so it might be a little more advanced, but it really is a powerful tool. But our most powerful feature, in my opinion, and we've talked about it a few times already, is the content author tool. So you can create your own SCORM files. We have a kind of WYSIWYG drag and drop kind of, UI associated with that. You can create templates. For me personally, I've used that so much in creating our internal courses, and I've helped customers as well kind of build their templates out and plan it from beginning to end, as kind of Phil was talking about his strategy earlier. We've come up with a strategy and created a complete template, so all they have to do is just click that template to start a new course, and start plugging in your information using the assets that we've set up in the template, removing the assets that we don't end up using. It's an extremely versatile tool, and you can also export these courses as SCORM files, which is helpful if you need it for something different. It's just a really great tool. But if you're not familiar with how Litmos works, I'll just start from the beginning. So you've got the modules, you create modules, and then you can use these modules and add them to courses. But then also you can add the courses and create a learning path, which is, which you add several courses to this learning path, or you can create a collection. And a collection, you can add both courses and learning paths to that learning that course. pretty cool. But also with modules, as you create modules, you're building your module library, and you could use that module for a single course if you want to, or you can use those modules in other courses. So multiple courses can have the same information, so you don't have to constantly be recreating the same course. And when you use that module, you could link it directly from its source, so that if it's being used in one course and a user completes it, it will, and they go into another course with the same module, it's already completed. The information is transferred over. You can copy it where the information is not transferred over. There's just a lot of different ways that you could use the modules there. And Litmos is just so flexible and so easy to use in that respect that, it's just, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. Oh, there we go with the content author tool here. So this just kind of goes in. It just shows a bit of an example of, we have several components that are available for you to compile your pages here. You got headers, and you can add videos, you can do assessments, all within the content author tool as well. So we can also create, just a straight learning course, or you can divide them up into chapters, with different pages in it. You can preview your content as you're building it as well. And that's pretty much it for the content. But if you have questions about it, please add it into the Q&A there.
So it's probably a good point in time, and I'm just following some of the questions that have been in the Q&A. Oh, what's that? That's better. So just to sort of reiterate probably a point, when it comes to content, it starts with the strategy. And there's probably sort of a pre-step in terms of the strategy, is that content creation and solving your content needs doesn't always mean that you need to go off and build a course yourself. Like, if you think about the options that people have, once you've identified the need for developing a course or for pushing some training out to your staff, there's going to be three choices that you're going to have, right? The first choice is you go and use the Litmos content library. The second choice is you build a course yourself. Or the third choice you're going to have is to go and find an external content library that you can use. And we know with our Litmos customers that 60% of the courses that they deliver to their employees or their internal stakeholders are delivered from the Litmos content library. Are delivered from the content author tool. So people are creating 60% of the courses that they're pushing out, they're creating themselves with using Litmos's content author tool. 30% of the courses that they're pushing out are coming from the Litmos content library, and 10% of the courses are coming from third-party sources. So to go to some of the questions that have been in the Q&A, a content library is not going to have everything that you're looking for. There's often a really, really strong case to build your own courses that are specific to your organizational needs, things that are very bespoke, specific to your requirements, and stuff that you won't get in a library. So just to sort of make that point again, that it's never ever going to be a single choice. You're never going to have a learning strategy and a content strategy that's based around one option. You're going to have a blended approach between what you build, what you license, and in our case, we offer the choice of either licensing our content or licensing someone from a third party like Go1. So in terms of sort of wrapping some of this stuff up for you, the whole content story starts with a strategy. So it's really around what's the big picture that you want. Analyze learner needs, look at what your business goals are, identify the learner organizational objectives, select the delivery methods that I'm talking about before, whether you build, you license, or you license externally. And it's really important that you start with the end goal in mind. Don't just sort of jump in and start building some content or launching some courses. Think about what the big picture is. I think the second point we want to make is stay relevant. I sort of often think about things, looking at things from the personalized experience that you're offering a learner. So stay relevant to the learner, the with and what's in it for me. Content needs to be relevant to someone's job. It needs to be engaging, accessible, interactive, and contribute to the broader learning goals of the organisation. And the relevance is also about keeping people on task, making sure that they're actually engaging with the learning along the way. We know that knowledge retention increases the more highly engaging a course is. But if you keep it relevant, you're going to get higher completion rates, you're going to get better learning outcome. And the final point is content doesn't end just with authoring something. So it's about making sure that you're going back, you're reviewing and you're testing. And so you go through that whole improvement cycle that you have. You build something, you review it, you check it, you test it, you make sure that it's achieving its objectives, and then you revise and augment as well as you go through. So it's a continuous process that you need to make sure that you've got in place to continue that sort of learning journey that people have got. But I think, these are probably the messages we want to get across, is that it's not an all or nothing option. There are a number of options that you have for creating your learning solution. Start with a big picture in mind, make sure that the content's relevant for everybody, and don't just build a course and think that's the end of it, because you've got a lot of work just to keep reviewing and refreshing and making sure it's relevant along the way too. So I think with that, John. Get started.
Yeah, I think this would be a good time for Q&A. So I think we have some questions in the chat that we can take care of. So should we address some of those?
Do you want to start at the bottom and work your way up?
Yeah, so one question is, so will the same courses in Pluralsight be added to the Litmos content library? Do we need access to Pluralsight to do this? Pluralsight is actually external to Litmos content. However, I do believe Go1 does offer some Pluralsight content. If you want to take a deeper dive into that, you can certainly reach out to your account executive or account manager who can get you more details on exactly what is offered. So that would be the way to go for that. Will Litmos update their content creators so we can create better courses ourselves? I think John covered that with the content author tool, right? It's been a pretty big release for us, and a key tool for our customers to create that interactive content score modules that they can leverage directly within the platform. But
there is, if you don't mind, there is a if they go into the dojo and the white belt course, we have the white, green, and black belt courses to help you learn how to use Litmos. In the white belt course, there is a pretty advanced content author tool, course intro, kind of shows you how to use all of the components and what they do.
Right, yeah, and that's a great resource. The dojo is a great resource. So if you want to get better at leveraging the content author functionality, it's a free resource to go in there and learn how to leverage that, so you can build that content, that interactive content you're looking to build right within Litmos to potentially supplement with any of our content or Go1 content. Another question is there a library of sample templates we can edit and customize for great content and learning modules? So I do believe the majority of our customers have access to 20 courses right now directly from our content library. Phil, is that a correct statement?
Yeah, it is. And look, it's a great idea having some I think the question might also relate to sort of pre-existing templates in Content Author as well too. And that's another great suggestion, if we could start to build some of those out and make those available for people, just to make it a bit easier to start to build some courses. So definitely a great idea in there.
Right.
There was a question in there, Paul, about the difference between collections and learning paths as well too. Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, essentially, a learning path is something that can be assigned directly, and Christy Backus is on here. She could correct me if I'm wrong, but a learning path is something that can be assigned directly to a learner. It can be assigned to a team. It can also be assigned to the library. A collection, from my understanding, can only be assigned to the library. Christy, I don't know if you can unmute or maybe provide a better response in the chat, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am the director of product marketing. You've probably heard me on customer release webinars. So I've been monitoring the chat. But the main difference between the collections and learning paths is that collections are groupings of courses, learning paths, and assets that are good for a certain amount of time, which we call a listing, for a certain user population. Then learning paths are made up of courses, and those can be assigned again to teams, to individual users, and those consist of the ability to do course equivalencies, also timed releases for learning paths and things like that. Hope that helps.
Great, thank you, Christy. Appreciate it. Are there any other questions?
I just want to throw in also, if you go to the dojo and look up the Litmos Labs, Litmos Labs is an amazing resource to learn how to use Litmos and the different functionality. They go into, specifics like about the rules, and everything from rules to just how to design your site, how to structure your site, how to think forward. It's an amazing resource, and I was part of that team. They've put a lot of effort into it and a lot of care, and they really wanted it to be a good tool for customers to use and to utilize, and to answer a lot of questions. So it's kind of like little tutorials in a way, which I think they've done a great job with. So please check that out as well.
Great. So there's quite a few questions coming through in the chat. We'll try and get through them all, but if we can't, we'll certainly do what we can to answer them outside of this. So
there's one that has popped up, and it was actually in there earlier too, Paul. I didn't pick it up. I mean, there's an issue. Someone's asked a question about copyright issues, which is it is a significant issue in the way that we're creating content and making sure that anything that we do is copyright free. And the risk people often run is that let's just go off and search. We'll get a YouTube video, or a classic one these days is let's look at ChatGPT and just copy and paste some content for that. Copyright, it's a major issue from the authoring perspective. I think you need to be looking at how you go about creating copyright-free content. We will always do quite significant searches around content. We'll cite references where we need to cite references, just like today. I mean, we've been quoting stuff from World Economic Forum. We need to make sure that we cite it. We need to make sure that we ensure that we're not solely attributing all of the content that we might have to a particular one source without getting permission. So we run through this all the time. It's a debate with the content team that we have almost daily. It's something that we're challenging each other with. We come up with an idea for a course and we say, well, who owns that content? Who owns copyright to it? So you need to be really, really careful of that. And obviously there's a really huge legal implication that comes from using copyright inappropriately. So I just would put that really front and center of any of your content plans that you do when you come to storyboarding and authoring, or even coming up with a course idea. Just be really conscious that you're not in breach of anyone's copyright when you're putting content out there. That's a good question.
Phil, that's such a good point. I mean, even as an artist and having to gather references for any artwork that I do, I've had to learn early on, about copyright and the things I need to be careful of. So, I think it seems to extend to so many other things.
Yeah.
Good point.
And, and it's a thing too, where sometimes you actually don't realize that content also comes with a license and comes with terms and conditions in there as well. I mean, even our courses, for example, you are licensing our courses and you're licensing them with specific terms and conditions that you can't reproduce them or use them unlawfully. So I think content and even probably the other sort of issue that's rolling out is the whole use of AI and who owns the content when it's generated by any AI tool, which is another debate. And I'm not qualified to really talk about it specifically now, but it is something which is a bit of an evolving feast for everyone in the course development area. Is, you know, it's quite easy if something's attributed to a particular author, if it's generated by AI. I think the whole area of IP ownership is murky now. So, yeah, as I say, it's got to be front and center of anyone's thinking when they're creating a course.
Yeah, very important.
Good stuff. So I see another question. Is there live help if assistance is needed when creating our own content? I think there's a couple options for that. You can leverage our support team if you need help with the functionality of Content Author or the content builder within Litmos. But if you actually need help with the content itself you're building, we do have a services group that can certainly support you with that. So if you need help with the content itself, not the technical functionality to build it, reach out to your account manager, your account executive. They can put you in touch with our services group that can definitely support you with any content that you're building. Someone asked if they have access to Go One. So you can get access to Go One. Again, that would be a question for your account manager and account executive. Reach out to them directly. They can get you more details on what you would be able to access with Go One and how you'd be able to access that. Some other questions. So copyright. I see one about YouTube video embedded isn't working. It's not playing. That would be a great support ticket. You know, support will certainly be able to help you look into that and help you troubleshoot that. So a question from Jan: the definition of collections is helpful, but would you be able to give an example when to use a collection, especially since you said it was for a limited time? Christy, maybe you can hop back in. I don't know if you can think of a good example off the top of your head for that one. You there, Christy? Maybe you're not able to oh, there you are.
Yeah, one more time on that question.
Yeah, so a question from Jan: the definition of collections was helpful, but could you give an example of when to use a collection, especially since you said it was for a limited time?
Yeah, I think one of the best examples is, you know, you have perhaps a new, product that you want to have the sales team sell, and you have very specific product team courses that you want, or sales courses from the product team that you want them to take. So you would just assign that to the sales team. Now, of course, you could use it, you know, simply as in their team's catalog if you have your sales teams in there. But a collection is great because if something too becomes irrelevant or you have an update to it, you can leverage collections.
Got it. Appreciate that, Christy. So yeah, quite a few questions. Let's see. I'm actually looking at the Q&A here.
Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have to limit the time on a collection, or can you let it go so that there is?
I believe it can be limitless. Yeah, because there's the start date, the end date settings. Yeah, and I believe it can be limitless too.
Yeah, I just didn't want people to think that they had to have, use it for a limited time.
Exactly. Good point.
I do see a question from Maggie here, and this is probably for the marketing folks on the call, but do you offer webinars like this on how to navigate and use Content Author to its fullest? So she might be looking for something a bit more in depth. So anyone from the marketing team be able to respond to that? If not, we can certainly circle back on that question at a later point, but
there's a question, Paul, on how often we refresh courses. So as I said earlier, we're rolling out about 50 to 70 courses from our library a month. A large proportion of those are reversions. So compliance is a really good example where legislation changes, laws change, and we need to keep ahead of that. So on our compliance suite, we work with subject matter experts to give us advice. And these are legal companies. We work with them to give us advice proactively on when legislation changes, when we need to make changes to a compliance course. And so we'll often be working ahead of planned legislation and push those out. With our soft skills courses, we'll do refreshers, every couple of years, depending upon where content's changing. So we have, Now, some courses might be relating to social media. We need to update those every 3 months or 6 months. Other courses might relate to concepts that are a little bit more less subject to change, and we might release those every year or two. I think on average, the length of a course in Litmos is about 2 years, so it's actually quite up to date. And some of our compliance courses can be updated every 6 months, depending upon legislative changes that go on.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate that. I do see another question from Paul Ramirez. We have both weekly toolbox talk and monthly safety training requirements. Most of our personnel only have smartphones to support this training. Does Litmos support optimization for use on cell phones? We certainly do. When it comes to our content, we Q&A before any type of course is released on various types of devices, whether it be tablet, smartphone, various different operating systems and web browsers as well. So whatever device accesses the content, that content will be optimized for that specific device and internet speed. So good question. We understand that mobile utilization for learning is going to only get higher as we continue this learning journey. And we certainly want to make sure that our solution is going to adhere to that and provide that optimal learner experience. See, is there trying to go through all the questions, they're still trickling through. Some suggestions.
I was going to comment real quick about the content author question, whether or not it's going to be updated. And they are constantly working on updating the content author tool with new components and new ways to use it. So yes, that's a continuing effort there on our side.
Is there a setting to auto purge inactive users if they're not tagged? Sorry, the chat's kind of moving quick. And not logged in after a certain amount of time that we can set. I don't believe there's an auto purge for inactive users, but I believe they just, there's no automation to inactivate users, but I think it can be set up via an API. Our services team or support can get you more details on that. Our services team could help if you're looking to potentially automate some of that stuff. So if you don't have automation in place, something could possibly be built, but I don't have too many details on that. So, definitely if you want to build some sort of automation, I would reach out to your account manager or AE who can put you in touch with our services folks. I think that may have answered all the questions. Does anyone else have any questions or feedback or anything else for us? Is there anything else in the Q&A? Are there any plans to be able to copy a course and then make changes to that copied course? That one we'll have to take away and table and respond.
There's a question there on integrations too, Paul.
Okay. Do you integrate with other content providers? So not quite yet. We are certainly looking to expand our integrations. Right now, like I said, we established a partnership with Go1, which we're really excited about, leader in the marketplace, biggest content aggregator out there. We're going to have an integration with them pretty soon, and we'll have more information on that as that gets defined. But as a business, this is it is something that we are certainly looking into. Where can I find collections tool to see if modules? I see modules, courses, learning paths. Collections can be found in the courses tab in the admin view. Is there a way for learners to see at a glance if they've taken a course? In the learner view, they do have a completed section to where they can see courses they've completed, as well as in the achievement section.
So in response also to the how do I see the collections, it has to be, you have to go to your Litmos features and make sure that collections is enabled. If you're not seeing it, there's a good chance that it's not enabled.
Yep, good call. How to create a certificate. So certificates are created in Word documents, and then you simply upload it into the course settings within Litmos. So you can create any type of certificate on a Word document and upload that.
There's a question on searching in there as well too. So searching, pardon me, searching functionality is always sort of front of mind for us and how to improve that. So the platform team are working on some enhancements to improve search, which will be coming out at some stage over the next sort of 6 months or so. But it's definitely an area, as we get more and more content, it's something we're really focused on in terms of how we can improve search functionality.
Good stuff. I think that covers the majority of the questions. Did I miss any?
I reckon you've done pretty well, Paul.
Can you customize certificate with license number for which are for different for each user? I believe you can. There are placeholders to give the certificate a unique identifier. You certainly can do that. So you'll just want to leverage a placeholder available within the settings. Alumni list can be downloaded with all course names. Thank you guys as well. We certainly appreciate the time you guys made for us. We appreciate all of you guys, joining us today, all the questions, all the interactivity. We love to connect with you guys from the Litmos side. So if you have any other questions or thoughts outside of this, please get in touch with your CSM or your account manager, and they'll direct things to the right resources, including John, Phil, and I. We certainly appreciate this and hope you can join us for any other webinars down the road. We like I said, we love to connect with you guys, and we appreciate the opportunity to give you guys some background on things that we're working on and information on our solutions. So yeah, with that being said, we really appreciate the time today, guys.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. Great work, Paul. Great work, John. Thanks, everyone.
And to you.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.